The first hint that something was terribly wrong came not from a radar screen, nor a distress signal, but from an absence, a silence so total it became a scream. At 1:21 a.m. on March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished from the world's airwaves as if swallowed whole by the night sky. 2 words, "Good night, Malaysian 370," became the last tether between 239 souls and the living world, a casual farewell that will metastasize into one of the most agonizing mysteries in aviation history. What followed was not just a disappearance, but an ever-deepening psychological labyrinth. Unanswered questions layered over shattered families, geopolitical suspicion, technological confusion, and the human mind's darkest instinct, the need for blame when truth refuses to surface. In the mundane hours before departure, nothing hinted at catastrophe. Families hugged. Children half slept on parents' shoulders. The cockpit crew, Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah and First Officer Farrag Abdul Hamid, performed routine checks. The Boeing 777, a reliable modern aircraft, taxied across Kuala Lumpur's tarmac toward Flight Level 350 and a long night toward Beijing. But behind the ordinary lay a fragile chain of international coordination, Malaysia's air traffic control handing off to Vietnam's, where a moment's delay, a misconfirmation, or a quiet assumption could expand into a void wide enough to lose an airplane. Minutes after crossing the South China Sea, MH370 slipped from secondary radar, then primary, then every form of surveillance used to track an aircraft. It did not send distress signals. It did not descend sharply. It did not behave like a plane in crisis. It simply turned. A slow, deliberate arc left the approved flight route. It doubled back across the Malay Peninsula, crossed the Strait of Malacca, and headed into the open Indian Ocean, where radar faded and the sky became absolute darkness. Investigators soon learned a truth that made the world shiver. The turn was intentional, a switch in the flight management system, not a malfunction or accident. Who made the change? Why? No one could prove it, but intention, even without identity, was enough to open 1,000 doors to speculation and suspicion. As hours turned into days, families waited in airport lounges transformed into grief chambers. Rumors spread like infection. Some whispered about hijackers. Others muttered about the pilots. Some clung to the hope of a secret landing. Governments deflected blame. Search zones shifted wildly. Satellite companies, the only entities left with any hint of the plane's direction, released mathematics that read like riddles. Inmarsat pings, Doppler shifts, arcs, handshakes. Precision drowned in probability. Behind closed doors, investigators confronted a logistical nightmare. The final satellite handshake placed the aircraft somewhere along a remote southern corridor of the Indian Ocean, an area so desolate that even naval vessels rarely touched it. No flight path made sense. No motive aligned cleanly with the evidence. No wreckage surfaced to anchor a narrative in reality. Meanwhile, silence bred demons. Online forums surged with armchair investigators. Families grew frustrated, angry, suspicious. Governments issued statements that contradicted each other. Each day without evidence deepened the wound, and the world demanded answers. Answers that did not exist. Then something unexpected surfaced. Fragments. Not from the South China Sea, not from the Gulf of Thailand, but from Mozambique, Reunion Island, Tanzania. Debris carried thousands of miles by the Indian Ocean's merciless currents. Barnacle-covered wing flaperons. Interior cabin pieces. Shards of the aircraft unmistakably from MH370. Pieces of truth, but not the truth. With each new discovery, the psychological tension escalated. The debris proved the plane crashed, but it didn't reveal why. It didn't reveal what happened inside the cockpit. It didn't reveal how 239 lives could end without a trace of humanity's massive surveillance network detecting the final act. Families were torn in impossible directions between accepting death and demanding proof, between grief and suspicion, between mourning and obsession. Many clung to specific theories because uncertainty itself became a kind of psychological torture. The investigation ballooned into the most expensive search in aviation history. Nations deployed sonar, submarines, deep-sea drones. Every square kilometer mapped in the Indian Ocean revealed cold mountains, trenches, and silence. No fuselage, no bodies, no definitive crash site, and without a body of evidence, the human mind began to fill the gaps with darkness. Did someone in the cockpit intend this? Was there a fire that incapacitated everyone? Was it a systems failure compounded by human error? Was it terrorism? A hijacking? A murder? Suicide? A mechanical anomaly that spiraled unseen? There was no villain to condemn, no confession to record, no black box to reconstruct the final minutes. Just a plane, a crew, 227 passengers, an ocean deep enough to bury their story. The investigation's internal conflicts deepened the mystery. Different nations controlled different pieces of information. Radar data was delayed or incomplete. Diplomatic hesitations slowed disclosures. International jurisdictions clashed. Each government's political concerns added another layer of opacity, and yet no clear evidence of wrongdoing ever surfaced. The pilots' lives, though scrutinized, revealed no proven motive. The passengers' backgrounds showed no credible plot. Mechanical histories produced no smoking gun. The Indian Ocean remained a grave that refused to confirm itself. In January 2017, after nearly 3 years of relentless searching, officials suspended the operation. The official statement noted that the plane could not be located without new, credible evidence. For the families, it was not closure but abandonment. No bodies recovered. No cockpit recordings. No definitive cause. No justice. Only absence. Years later, another search, privately funded and technologically advanced, scanned thousands more miles of ocean floor. Once again, nothing. The courtroom phase, normally the place where facts crystallize, offered no resolution. Instead, it produced a mosaic of lawsuits, accusations, and indemnities. Some families sued Malaysia Airlines. Others sued the Malaysian government. Insurance companies fought over liability. Courts struggled with jurisdiction. But no legal proceeding could answer the single human question that echoed in every hearing room. What happened to MH370? And so the case hangs suspended, not just legally and scientifically, but emotionally, anchored in a collective grief that has no endpoint. The world moved on. Airlines changed protocols. Aviation technology advanced. But the story of MH370 remained an unfinished chapter in human history, a wound preserved by the very absence of explanation. Pieces of the plane rest on shelves in government labs. Data remains in archives. Families continue to live in a dual state. Lives divided into before and after, memories trapped between hope and acceptance. Every anniversary reopens a collective ache. Every newly washed up fragment restarts a cycle. Every documentary rekindles anger. Every quiet night leaves room for the same unbearable question. If a modern aircraft can simply vanish, what else can disappear without a trace? And so, more than a decade later, one truth remains undeniable. The greatest mystery of MH370 is not the disappearance itself, but that the world, with all its technology, all its politics, all its promises, still cannot say where 239 souls spent their final moments. The case ends not with closure, but a void large enough to swallow a plane, a void that whispers the chilling question still haunting the world. What if the ocean is not hiding the truth, but reminding us that some truths were never meant to be found?